You're listening to the Good for Business podcast, where we feature interviews, tips, and tricks from owners, operators, and innovators throughout Mississippi and around the world. And now, your host, Colin Krieger. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Good for Business podcast. I don't know where to look at the camera. I don't know which camera to look at. It's magic here. We're at Catfish Alley Studios, the only Web3 podcasting studio in Mississippi. And I am here with my friend, Russell Poole. How's it going?
It's going well, thanks.
Well, this is our first magical episode of the thing. We plan to do hundreds and hundreds of them because there's so many good people in town, not only that are entrepreneurs or own their own business, such as yourself, but have worked their way up to be a manager or just a person of influence in the community that's good for Starkville, Columbus, and West Point and everything in Mississippi. So no pressure, but go ahead and give me your pedigree. Give me the name, date of birth, all that sort of stuff.
Yep, I don't mind being a guinea pig. So I'm Russell Poole. I own Plus Remodels, and we've recently started doing remediation, water remediation as well. So Plus Remodels and remediation. 43, I've lived in Columbus ever since. Well, I kind of grew up here, moved away for a little bit, but I've been back for just 10 years. So I'm glad to be here. And what other pedigree you need?
What part of town do you live in?
I live in East Columbus.
East Columbus,
actually, I've got an old rental house I bought at 21 years old that's turned into a home for a minute. Honestly, it's more like Plus Remodels office with a bed in it, but that's
part of the entrepreneurial journey, I guess, as well.
Exactly.
So we'll jump right into that. Tell me your origin story, both of your life and how you came into business, being in a business for yourself.
Okay. Origin story. So I born in Florence, Alabama, raised kind of all over the place, moved to Columbus in 13, and so I call myself from Columbus, but origin story, there's been some changes, some pretty drastic changes in my life over the last 10 years. So I was in the oil and gas business for 10 years, and I enjoyed a lot of that. It's kind of like being the Ed McMahon of the oil and gas business.
So just like Landman, like the TV show?
I was a petroleum landman. That's exactly. I'm so glad this show came out because now people have an idea what a landman is. I used to have to explain it to everybody I told that to. So yeah, kind of like that. Probably a little more glamorous than what I did, but yeah.
Still, I would imagine the beer and alcohol and living off the land and sand flying everywhere that all fits into the story, right?
A lot of that did. The owner of the brokerage firm I worked for said petroleum landmen were one of the only known alcohol-based life forms on Earth. So
that's a big part of the Billy Bob Thorton story on his landman thing. What was your first job ever? What led to that?
Led to landmanning? Well, yeah. I think Peking Chinese restaurant in Columbus was my first on-the-record job. First job I got a W-2 for. I helped a guy paint a little house on the end, but Peking I worked at for several years and learned a couple of different languages there, Mandarin and Spanish, and actually became friends with one of the owners. We went to China with him, and it was a cool...
That's incredible. Your front of house or back of house? What were you doing?
Front of the house, yeah. I'm still culinarily declined, but front of the house we did a lot.
That's amazing. It's a common theme I hear with entrepreneurs and just regular business folks is you may not realize it while you're doing it. Like I've intentionally done it with my daughter working at Zachary's, but how important it is that influence of customer service and stuff working in a restaurant. And it may scare people away from owning their own business. And they see, that's what I always say, camera present, where the owner's looking at the bills as you do. Mm-hmm. That's where the hair goes, is from you rubbing your head going, how am I going to make payroll? How am I going to do that? So how old were you when you went to China?
Yeah, it's business or feast and famine. But China, I was 23 or 24. One of those.
You're still a puppy now. How old are you?
43.
But you went with were they natives from there, or they family?
So yeah, he was from China. Yep. And I went with him and his son, but also went with Catherine Munson, and my girlfriend at the time, Teresa Fowler. Okay. So yeah, we went. It was for about 3 weeks. I went to Shanghai and a lot of the southeastern China. I went to visit like a Buddhist. One of their national parks, like a Buddhist island with a bunch of temples, and it was wild. It was really cool. And I don't recommend Duolingo, or really, Chinese is hard. Mandarin is hard because China was such a drastically changing country, and it still is, but like it's becoming the melting pot like nobody's business. It's like 30 different dialects all kind of coming together at once. So like by the time I learned what I learned, it had changed.
It had already changed?
Yeah.
That's a big thing that's happening now. My daughter's exploring college, and she's doing international studies, and they talked about that in French. So she wants to take French. Okay. Well, 2 years ago, you had to learn all the contract law and all this other fancy stuff. Like if you wanted to be a lawyer in France or do business. And now AI is eating it up. Like they're worried about conversational French and being able to talk because the written part of it's, just being taken care of automatically. Wow. And I can't imagine but you were traveling with somebody who was a native of the land.
So lucky, yeah. He was a native, and he had several friends who had since he left, gotten really successful, and all were apparently indebted to him. So like, we were treated like royalty. Like it was. We were really lucky.
He's building a network in the purest sense of the word. So.
Yeah.
Do they still own Peking?
Right. Yes. Well, part of it. Okay. So Peking's changed hands a number of times. They're no longer active. They retired. He actually retired pretty like in his early 50s. So they retired, but they still own a piece of it. And
okay.
Yeah, are still.
Well, neat. I've been over there. Speaking of Catherine Munson, her dad, Larry Feeney. He's one of the people. There's two people I can think of every time I go to Peking that I'm like, oh, who was sitting there? Larry when he was in good health, and then Josh Clemens, attorney Josh Clemens. Oh, yeah. Bless his heart. He's there a lot, and it's him and his wife are there. I come to set my watch when I see him walk in. He's given me the courage to eat alone. So I say that sometimes, like I know a whole bunch of people, but I usually don't know if my lunch hour is free or anything till that, like a couple minutes before. And so I don't know if I want to go sit in the middle of Harvey's just by myself, but I don't mind doing it at Peking. I feel there's some grace there. So y'all were there for 3 weeks?
Just under 3 weeks, I think. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
So, and y'all were kind of going to the offbeat places. You weren't just hitting the main roads.
Exactly. Yeah, Shanghai was really just not a few days, and then we started traveling, and it was there's some things I'll never forget. Like I remember driving. I was not driving, by the way. I do not recommend driving in China ever. They'll make 4 cars wide in a 3-lane road all day. It was wild. Like when I got there, fully 1/3 of the drivers were new, had been driving less than 2 years, it was wild. But they turn into really amazing drivers though, because they have to. But I remember riding along the side of a mountain. I think it was on the way to that Buddhist island, but it was just we were going kind of past this little village, and I'll never forget this man's face. He was like a 75-year-old man, and his face, he was the happiest person I've ever seen in my life. It was radiating. And I remember talking to Xiaohu, my friend at Peking, about it, and I just remember noting that. And he likened it to ignorance. He's like, he's almost definitely like lived on that mountain all his life. And he doesn't know all this crazy world that we're in the midst of and constantly distracted by. And so I was like, so it's too late for us? He was like, yeah, we can't go back to that.
Well, that goes back to like, what news, if you're watching the news every morning, you're going to be in a rage. I tell Scott from Financial Concepts all the time with the little money I have him, I'm like, quit sending me texts and emails when the market crashes because I don't know. So I'm okay. And you and I have connected talking about stress in business. Yeah. Like how to handle it. Like if you're just looking at the negative stuff, we're in a B&I group on Thursday mornings, Business Networking International. And we talk about that all the time. Like if you just think that the market's bad or think that there's no opportunity, you're not going to run into the person or be open to the experience of like, wow, things are incredible. And that's part of the reason we're starting this podcast is because I've tried to shine a light on businesses opening and people having an entrepreneurial spirit, but you're only as good as the people in your room. And you're starting to see that, I know, with contracting, you start to see really big houses and really successful people in Columbus, Mississippi and Starkville, Mississippi, and these small towns where the rest of the world would just blow it off. You don't realize, like, there's diamonds under our feet is a good way to say it. Like there's just there's a lot of stuff here, a lot of opportunities here to do that. So you went from restaurant work to China. You got back from China. Did you go straight into landman? Like how do you end up from rural Mississippi to doing landman stuff?
Well, so actually, I was still waiting tables. I kind of hopped to restaurants a little bit at that age, and at the time I was waiting. I got the bug, by the way. Like I was like, I guess 20, and got the get rich bug, and started learning about all these things. Started taking all the courses, including real estate, stocks. But I was starting. I think it was Carlton Sheets. No money down investing or something. And I was taking all these courses, and I just bought that rental house that is now essentially Plus Remodels. And I was working at J. Broussard's when it was down there on Main Street. And
what year would this been?
I think it
were there
would have
up
been
till
24. I think it would have been, I think it would have been like 03. 03. 20.
I think they moved in 06 or 07.
Okay, that sounds right.
We came up here with Katrina, and we had our first anniversary dinner when they were still on Main Street.
Nice, yeah. I'll never forget Joe Broussard yelling, "Order!" like from the basement. You have to run up and down 2 flights of stairs to get there. And yeah, I loved that place. Still love, Mary and Beth. But so where was I? Oh yeah, so I met a landman. I didn't even know.
We had most Americans. I hadn't heard the term until Billy Bob Thorton came out.
I got pretty good at describing what it was, but now I don't have to. Way easier. But I met my first landman and learned what a mineral right was. I didn't even know what that was. That you could own the land and not what's under it. And if you own the land, you still have to give the people that own what's under it access to what's under it. So much I learned. But anyways, he and his wife were regulars at Broussard's, and so we got a rapport. And unbeknownst to me, with this real estate bug that I had caught, I had taught myself how to be a landman without knowing there was a landman opportunity. So running title, I learned a good bit of real estate law, contract law, and all this stuff that I was learning other ways. I was already half trained for them. So when the opportunity came, they offered it immediately.
And you went to Texas? That's where everybody assumes everything is. I know that in parts. My neighbor, Mary Beth Jeter, who ran for council, she did oil gas leases for a long time.
Oh, okay.
And it was in Texas. So my entire frame of reference is my neighbor, Mary Beth, and, of course, Billy Bob Thornton's show.
That Texas, I spent the least amount of time. I did, but literally a week. I spent a week in Texas. But I've been to 7 states over the 10-year period, Mississippi. Because that's why he was here. They were actually in a project that was in West Point. Okay. They actually have natural gas around these parts.
Oh, yeah, plenty up in
shale.
Caledonia.
That's right. Yep, Caledonia. Alabama, Louisiana, where I learned Napoleonic Code, which is a
whole
different animal. That's right. You know about this.
Why my ancestors and I drink so much.
That's right.
There's a lot going on.
And North Dakota, Montana, Maryland, and Pennsylvania are the 7 states.
When you operate like that, are you living like in the shacks with the oil field guys? I mean, is it just being like a oil, or is it completely
living out of a hotel? And typically, when the oil and gas got like the roughnecks and the drillers, when they're there, I've done my job. Like we are.
Oh, okay. So
when I get there, it's usually before most locals know there's anything going on. It's a little undercover. And we are going to the courthouse to try to do the research to figure out who owns what. We got to research all the way back to the 1800s and then forward to run the mineral title. And then we find them or their heirs or their heirs or their heirs. It's a lot of genealogy. And so by the time they're drilling, I've already found the people, run the title, negotiated with everybody, gotten leases signed, recorded all that in the courthouse, and then did all the curative stuff. So if there's title problems, or I walk the land and make sure I don't see there's no a random oil well capped off there that I need to say, hey, we may need to look into this. By the time they're drilling, I've done a good job. So.
And how bad was the economy affect? Talk about affecting a job.
It's wild.
The economy. I mean, again, my neighbors moved away, come back, just based on, if oil is over $87 a barrel.
My blood pressure every day. My blood pressure was affected by the price of oil per barrel or the price of gas per cubic foot. It was stressful.
Yeah.
high stress. So that I don't miss. I had a lot of fun, but there was a lot of anxiety and a lot of living on the road. Like it's a different animal. I made a lot of fair weather friends, a lot of, and in my drinking as well. So that's really kind of what switched me over from out of being a landman. And not that you can't, be a sober landman, but but actually moved back in my travels at the very end of my landman career to Columbus, and I'm an alcoholic in recovery, and so my drinking was totally out of control by the time I got there, and I got sober here. And part of that early sobriety, I had this really big shift in my motives, and after that shift happened, I just couldn't bring myself to doing that work anymore. Nothing against that work. But.
Well, I mean, it's like being a bartender and being in recovery. Like, it's maybe not the best place you should be, and maybe and not the best interactions, especially moving around too. When you need a circle of people around you to help you, and for you to help, it's not the best place to lead a flock or to be in a flock moving around that much. What was the first job you did when you got back?
So when I got back, I was still a landman. I was actually I was there doing that for the last maybe 6 months. The first 6 months back here. But I quit, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. I just knew it wasn't that anymore. So I quit a 6-figure job for no good reason, according to most of my friends. And but I didn't know what I was going to do. And so I just kind of started floating around and searching. I knew it was something. I just didn't know what. So I helped a couple friends build their businesses, and I don't remember what I started off doing.
I think my first awareness of you was maybe with Ryan Munson at the Candle
store, maybe? Yeah, he was one of the friends. Yep,
yeah.
Munson and Brothers. And before there was a storefront, we were putting it's really a natural men's healthcare products, and we were getting them into retail stores and selling them online. So I helped them get into their first 70 stores, just kind of stayed on the road and traveled around and checked out all these different gift shops and barber shops. And so that was part of it. And I've done countertop work and at a candle store, worked at Grassroots. Actually, I picked your brain. By the way, Colin is a mastermind at strategy. I bought him lunch to try to find out. I'd become the fundraising coordinator for Grassroots, right? And I didn't have a lot of experience with fundraising, but I knew who did. So I was like, let me buy you lunch. And we had lunch right out there. It was that Thursday at lunch music thing downtown.
Yeah. It always rained. So Barbara was going to get noon tunes.
The noon tunes.
That was the number one way. If you're not praying for rain this year, but if you were, you would just say, "Hey, noon tunes is today," and the skies would open up.
So the one dry noon tunes we had, I sat down and I offered to buy Colin lunch, and he came up. I mean, rattled him off the first 3 ideas he had. Tripled the business. It was crazy, but Colin's brain is a good one to pick for sure.
Let's mark that one on the tape as my first celebrity endorsement. But I learned from a young age to ask questions. People have asked me. I had some time in the media here, and they're like, "Well, how do you know this, or how do you find that?" I'm like, "You just have to find the right person to ask, and without fail, it goes to one of my questions when I'm asking about jobs I've had. As part of that's fascinating." The references you have, I think it was something that happened on Seinfeld once where they say, generally most men, when they get older, have had several careers of varying degrees of success. We've got, and it also goes in tune with why adults are, Paula Poundstone, the comedian, you say, why adults are asking kids what they want to do when they grow up is because we're looking for ideas. And I think that's something that'll come across on this show is that, people just think they have to find their career in their 20s, and they don't realize that when you start talking to people, the amount of spots and places where you get influence and learn tricks and trades and things. Most of my skill set for customer service is from doing 20 years in food service and the restaurant business and owning my own restaurant and having no business and having to hang 30 flyers out to get business or give away slices of cheesecake, which now has turned into posting things on Facebook or Instagram, wherever. I'm fascinated now that there's so many places out there to do this stuff for free. And you're in a business now, remodeling houses, that a lot of it's referrals. You can do all the advertising you want, but there's much like many trades and professions, law, real estate, plumbing, electric, remodeling, there's a certain distrust. Even if you have the phone book ad, a lot of times when I refer people out, I'm like, what do you want? What kind of help do you want? And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, do you want 9 a.m. to Budweiser? Do you want phone book? Like, you would be phone book guys. You're going to show up on time he's doing. There's no phone book anymore. Or 9 a.m. to meth. And they're like, what's the difference? I'm like, some of them you have to buy supplies, some you have to buy supplies and watch them. Like, they may paint the wall, but then 2 minutes later, Paul runs off with your couch. So there's different efficiencies in that. But yeah, getting back to the skill set of work where you're going around, the candle stuff. I remember y'all talking about buying and going to fairs. Like, you have no idea where money is hidden. Mm-hmm. Like, there's 2 different people in the Golden Triangle. One's exceptionally bigger, but that's sold roll-up foam mattresses for 15 years ago, and when they blew up like 7 or 8 years ago, now there's a giant house out in New Hope / East Columbus from somebody who was selling something that already existed, but he didn't know it. The guy that held the original patent for the trolling motor was in Columbus, Mississippi, living in a little $80,000 house on Highway 69. These people are there, exceptional. Chris Chain's a national leader in historic preservation and historic renovation. He's right down the block half the week, and it's just, you can do that all over the world. I've been to conferences and connected with people way bigger than me, like Gary Vee and other people, because we had something in common because we were the same age. And I think that's fortunate, when you're building a career and going, oh, I can use this from that, or I remember meeting this guy again. I'm bringing my daughter's going to be studying international studies, and I'm like, the most valuable thing you might do is be overseas for 6 months. Because when you're at some board meeting at some big company or whatever, and somebody starts speaking French, and you may know the restaurant their kid worked at, and that's how business gets done. I had somebody call me today who I just helped with a fundraiser 2 years ago for a friend of their friend, and they didn't call me to discuss selling a house or compete for a listing selling a house. They said, hey, you were so good, please come sell my house. That's the kind of referrals businesses are looking for, All right, so we got candle store. What happened? How do you end up from candles to construction?
I fell into it. So I was still searching. I checked out several things, and none of them really spoke to me. And a buddy of mine who's also in recovery was in Starkville. He's a third generation carpenter and just a walking encyclopedia when it comes to this stuff. Asked me if I wanted to help him remodel a bathroom. And I was like, okay. I tried to warn him what he was getting into, which was 0 experience. And literally, I couldn't tell you what was behind that wall 10 years ago.
It's wall is what it is. Ladies and gentlemen,
isn't it just more wall?
Yeah. I'm not a scientist.
So, fortunately, he's super patient. He's, had this incredible amount of experience, and he's got the heart of a teacher. And that's exactly what I needed. And I fell in love with it. The physicality of it, seeing the fruit of my labor when I'm done for the day, seeing the progress, and then knowing somebody's going to just love it for years to come I loved it.
It's an incredible sense of accomplishment. I work with some guys, and we generally restore or flip one house a year, and when you're done, you're just like, huh.
Yeah.
And then I have the other side, if I sell them the house and then they don't cut the grass properly, I'm like, all right, folks, we need to get with the program here. But having that, and like you said, it's an old school human nature thing that you've killed something and drug it home,
Yeah.
And how'd you
go? And then
the
learning, the constantly learning. That's one bathroom includes 7 trades, so the learning of so many different things I love it. I soak it up.
So while we're in Catfish Alley Studio, one of the most futuristic, state-of-the-art podcast studios in the southeastern United States, how much did you count on technology learning? Because how long have you been in the remodel business?
So 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah.
Has just going on YouTube as opposed to when you were a puppy like me and not having any reference other than you weren't going to go to a library to learn how to hang sheetrock.
Absolutely. So when I wasn't working, I was soaking up best practices on YouTube, and there's a couple of other really great sites, but I was just when I wasn't doing, I was watching someone else do and trying to figure out the best practices. And that was 100%. That would have it would have been way harder to get where I am now.
Well, the feedback loop is incredible on that sort of thing.
That's right.
Just this shower head's a little crooked, and you just take a picture of the shower head and look it up. And
That's right.
that's always part of any business, how it just adjusts and changes, that sort of thing. So are you doing remodels and now water remediation?
Remodels, yeah, that's right.
Explain to people what water remediation is.
Okay.
But I know it's when your toilet overflows and ruins your whole house.
That's one of them for sure. It's wild because we've done 9 jobs now. We're just getting into it, and every one of them is from a different source. It is wild how many different ways water can get into your home where it's not supposed to be. But anything from a hole in the roof, to toilet, shower, AC has been a problem. There's been all kinds of issues, but essentially it's water being in the house where it's not supposed to be at its most basic form. And so we come running like it's time is of the essence with stuff like that, which is another thing probably most people wouldn't like, but I do like. Like it's go time kind of thing. So we come running and take a look, and there's a lot of different tools that I've started to learn to use to quickly spot your source as well as where it's gotten to and where it's not. So we first locate the source, which is a big factor. So there's actually 3 different types of water. So there's type 1, which is really clean water, drinkable water, potable water. There's 2, which is a little questionable. Microbes can grow in it if left long enough. And 3 is water that you're flushing usually. So, and so what we do with your home to remediate that problem heavily depends on the source of it, and as well as where it's gotten and how long it's been there. But we make sure that it's safe for you 100% time, and then get it dried as soon as possible. And it's actually kind of works out great because we also remodel. That's what we've been doing for years and years, so we can actually do the build back quickly as well.
Well, you're known as the premium bathroom guy, so then that's something you do learn with age and wisdom, or wisdom and age, whatever you get when you get older and forget stuff, is that you can find your niche. Like for instance, I don't deal with commercial real estate. Now you call me, I refer somebody to you, it's awesome, refer me today. But it isn't what I'm supposed to do. I had a really big deal that I referred to a friend, and at the last minute of the deal, they had a very complicated thing with a national company about gross tonnage of air conditioning and displacement. I wouldn't have had that on my contract. We would have been in big trouble. But I got the expert. And you can segment yourself in anything. I have a cheap handyman. You need a cheap handyman who's just going to do stuff. Do you need somebody like our good friend Corey Young who can hang a TV in 30 or 40 minutes?
That's right.
What happens when you find that when you get in a premium level of business, or not, it doesn't mean overcharging, but that means answering your phone, showing up on time, and doing the job correctly. Because I can tell you how many times I've been in these custom showers and the floor's been squishy, or I can see the marks in the walls from where they didn't have the purdy board. What's the board?
Yeah, Curdy board.
Curdy board, the orange board behind it, where it wasn't done right. And I can tell from on a 2-year-old shower that it wasn't done right on new construction. So I know people are, they're willing to pay a premium, but I think the better you can do, if we're trying to teach people about business and entrepreneurship, is doing the job right and knowing your customer. Can you speak to that? Like, did you develop from doing small showers and try to give everybody the best deal possible? Or did you try to start from right away? I'm going to do what I say, do what I do, and we're going to do it right.
So I started trying to do everything the best way and give people the best deals possible, and quickly realized that was unsustainable.
Well, if it's just you're okay. It's, how many employees do you have now?
4.
So you have 4 employees. You have 4, whether they're alone or not.
I'd take that back. 5 starting yesterday. Excuse me.
Well, congratulations on number 5.
Thank you. Thank you.
When you have 5 people, you have 5 families, whether it's one person or not. And I have to unfortunately tell people that a lot of times, like, hey, I've got 3 teenage daughters and a wife who's had health issues. I can't do in real estate. I can almost do everything, but if you're asking me to run your fundraiser for the year, sometimes I got to pass.
Yeah.
And so, as far as business tactics, what's the most valuable thing you've learned in the last year? I know you and I have talked about bidding software or getting control of your schedule, but what has either helped you the most in your business and what's helped you the most in mental clarity, in free time, as the kids say?
What's helped me the most in my business? That is tricky. I think doing things the right way and having a focus on the quality of you doing everything the right way throughout the entire process, and knowing that I'm going to sleep, my pillow's going to stay soft at night when I'm finished with that, and they're going to enjoy that for years to come, and they're going to tell people who did that for years to come. So just doing things the right way has been, golden. That's what has kept me at 100% referrals. I have yet to advertise or do any of that yet. So that's been amazing. And that not everybody can say that, but, so that's helpful. Hiring is clutch. My head carpenter is incredibly helpful. And he's got 20 years of experience in a couple of other trades as well. So, he's really good at simplifying solutions to tricky problems, because you got to be really good. Tricky problems are half of the game in remodeling, because you're working with somebody else's work. You don't know who that was or when they did it or what they used until you start tearing into it. So finding efficient, solid solutions to problems is so helpful, and I'm not always good at that. So I'll tell people I'll complicate a glass of water if you let me.
Yeah.
So that's not having somebody really good who can run the crew, make sure everything's done on time, and in order is clutch.
Well, much like myself, I think most people who are willing to pay to get stuff done, my time is all that's worth money. That's a famous line from Gary Vaynerchuk where he talks about Ubers. Like, Uber's not a car service, it's saving you time. You're buying yourself the time from parking and moving and getting out and doing this in big cities. And that's how I feel about contractors. And if it is 1,000% about integrity. Like, if you're not going to be there tomorrow, just say you're not going to be there tomorrow. If you're not, if it's going to take 6 weeks and it's going to take 10, the majority of people who are willing to write the check when the job is done, they just want that. I always say, integrity's the entire game. I like that what you're saying, I'm going to sleep well. I'm going to sleep well. They may come turn off my utilities eventually if I don't make enough money, but I'm not going down for anything. I'm not going to do something so short-sighted and sketchy. I've thought of that for most of my life about, like, somebody robs a bank for like 30 grand or something. I'm like, it's not going to last you long these days. Like, you're not going to get far. And especially in an area like ours where it's, it's essentially three small towns and then one bigger small town, and I get, you're only going to live off your reputation, and people will find out about you. And unfortunately, that's in real estate, lawyers, everybody in construction, that's the reputation. Is like they're not going to show up or they're going to screw me. And you spoke this morning in our B&I group about the perfect price guarantee or trying not to have change orders, that sort of thing. In a very tough, when you're talking about bathrooms, that's a tough situation.
Yeah, price promise, is what I call it. Now, we do offer change orders. So, like, what I lay out when I say the price promise is that as long as we stay within the scope of work that I put in your estimate, and as long as we stay within the I call it an allowance, but it's essentially material budget for the odds and ends that it's totally dependent on the customer's taste, like what kind of shower head they want. As long as we stay within that and do only what we put in there, then that's your price. Now it's in use probably 3/4 of the time when we're there and the customer sees either our craftsmanship or they start walking around the house and thinking, I've been wanting to get that done, they'll want us to do more work, and that would be a change order and additional work. But we're not going to charge you more than we quote you for what we're going to do. So that's something that's taught me real well, had the importance of an accurate estimate.
Well, you know what, and when we go back to labor, part of the thing that frustrates me in our area, and it's everywhere. I can tell you during COVID, I was watching all my friends in Atlanta and New York and New Orleans make the exact same complaints that they made here about the government, and there's no good employees, and this generation sucks and all that. And then when we're here, I was like, well, it seems like Huck's, Harvey's, and Zachary's have no problem finding good people. And it seems that Benton and Brislin and some of these bigger companies, Mark Casperry, no problem getting employees. Josh Jones, contractor, does excellent high-end work. Like, they're not having problems. But when I've talked to some of them, sometimes the challenge, it's harder than ever to connect. It's 5 years ago, everybody was on Facebook. You just put it on Facebook. Now it's back to being segmented, and you run an ad in the paper for a carpenter or whatever. Some of our friends have had good luck with the MCC, getting people from there, or Mississippi State. But can you talk about like hiring? Because again, if you had 50 employees, it's like my friends at Burns Dirt have a bunch of, they get calls off their trucks. You know what I mean? Like they get people they see the numbers on their truck, and Nick's like, yeah, they're calling me or whatever, or the guys are telling the other guys. But when you only have 3 or 4, not only do you have to be much more careful, like when you invest that time in them, and then 6 weeks later they leave to start their own bathroom remodeling company or whatever, or inevitably go back to meth, then you lose it.
Yeah.
So have you had challenges finding good people, or you just picky?
Honestly, I think I've been lucky than 90% of the people I know, because fortunately that has not been the problem I've had. So, but that's also been word of mouth, is really just referrals and people that I know who know what I'm doing and know what I need. That's been clutch. So I look forward to the problem of having 7 different crews and trying to figure out the best source for marketing and for hiring and seeking help. But it's been just most of the people are people who I've already built a relationship with and know their character. So.
Well, and you have to, there's little pockets when you're self-employed and running your business of, I want all the business in the world, but do I have enough people to service it? And if I hire people, what if I don't have enough to do them? Mm-hmm. And if like that panic of the unknown, and then if you do it, do you want 40 employees? Right. Like, do you want to be able to leave? People have asked me before, like, I can't believe you don't own your own real estate office. And I'm like, well, I see Mike and Chris Davis, Friday afternoon at 4:00 as I'm walking out in Hawaiian shorts, and I'm like, hey, good luck with your no vacation. Right. And I've been a business owner. And so there's different times in your life. Like I wanted to be home with my kids. So you do a certain amount of business and pass on the rest. And I know in your thing, like I know you get more calls than you can handle. Mm-hmm.
That has been a common problem. And honestly, I mean, it's an amazing problem to have. I'm really grateful for that problem. But it is a problem I'm trying to learn how to solve. So getting quicker estimates out has been my focus lately. Getting quicker estimates out and making sure I'm not dropping the ball on leads. Once I send them an estimate and they accept it and they get on the schedule, it's smooth as silk, and it's a great process. But the earlier parts are
and the estimate too. And I'm saying you're the most talented guy. I don't know number 5 who you just hired, but if I'm saying you're the most talented guy in your crew, you're also losing you while you do the estimate, and that's a tough part of the growth part of it.
It is.
I have the same balance with like showing houses. Like I try to show houses all the time I can. Whenever somebody calls, but sometimes I'm working on a higher dollar productive activity for my 10 people I'm selling houses for. And that it's just a part to navigate. I am glad in some respects that we're not in a bigger market, where there's 250,000 people who might discover how awesome you are, But it is, we're very fortunate in the Golden Triangle, I think, to have just enough good folks, just enough action going on, and just proud to be here. I want to say, since you brought it up, and I want to...
Well, can I interrupt you?
Yes.
So you actually do know the number 5, and she just texted you.
Oh, really?
And hopefully she's going to help me. Well, definitely she's going to help me solve this problem I've had. So Evie will be joining Plus Remodels, has joined Plus Remodels. Yay. And so she's got an MBA in marketing and is extremely knowledgeable about the problem and has solved a couple like that on her own. So I stole her away from...
Yeah, you're going to be able to teach her to build a shower or anything?
No,
because I've got a rental around the corner that her friend lives in. We could tile that shower.
Yeah. No, she'll be making sure everybody is where they need to be, and it will be a lot prettier face of Plus Remodels.
Yeah, she's easy on the eyes. That's a good thing. So,
she's extremely intelligent and knowledgeable about business systems and how to streamline what I've got going on in the front at the front office. So. Well,
good. I'm glad to hear that. I'm a big fan. Thanks. She lives around the corner from me.
That's right.
And good for that. And that's part of what I'm doing. I'm not adjusting my business too much, but that's part of the podcast. My brother Eric and I have been doing Good for Business with Eric and Colin Krieger, I think now for 8 years. We're 3,000 or 4,000 posts in it. We get a couple million hits a year, but I've gotten away without doing video and been very successful, but I haven't been as discoverable, I think, online. And it's not only to continue for business, but for charity aspects and that sort of thing. We're trying to get that, and we're trying to get conversations like this, because like I just learned you were a landman a month ago, and then now I'm learning you went to China and did these other things. I think there's a lot of people in our community who can benefit from that. Speaking of that, you brought up sobriety earlier. My lovely mother died with a 35-year AA chip in her pocket, and my stepfather died with 35 years worth of AA chips, which is, if you're in the recovery community, that's the two people, the ones who keep recovering. I learned just as much from him as I did from her. He was real into personal growth, and that's one of the best parts about stuff that's in recovery is you're having the support, but you're also learning about personal growth and other things, and as opposed to sitting there all day and blaming yourself for something bad. From a distance, some people are like, it's not good to go to a meeting 3 times a week where you say or it's something's out of your control and doesn't have a problem. I'm like, well, a lot of my Baptist friends do that 2 days a week, as go somewhere and say it's not in my hands and I'm out of control. So it's just another level of community. Like we have our BNI networking community, you've got that, and then you've got the business and work stuff. So now if you want to say a little bit about that. I'm not sure. I know you brought it up before.
Oh, yeah,
Has recovery helped you in your business, or what have you learned, like personal growth-wise, from that?
Well, recovery was largely responsible for me even getting in that business. I would have stayed drunk and miserable at being a landman.
Now you're sober and sometimes miserable.
Right? That's right. So, so I took the 12 steps of a fellowship I shall not name, and it led to this kind of shift. Some people call it like a spiritual awakening, but it was just a shift in motives and the way I see some things. And it made me want to be more fulfilled in meaningful ways than I was. And so that's what led me to quitting a 6-figure job and just kind of searching for something, regardless of what the pay was, just find something that meant something to me. Like, what was it? I told my former boss I wanted to start directly and effectively helping other people. And I'll never forget his response. It's like, okay, well, let me know if you ever want to go back to cutting people large checks. It's like, touche.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it led to that. That was, I got sober February 5th, 2015. So that was just over 10 years ago. And I still like working with people, like early in recovery, and by work I mean like step work, helping them take those actions that are necessary instead of just sitting there thinking about how miserable their life is. Doing something about it is effective.
And cool. You mentioned like earlier about the shortcut to making money, and in my experience, like, happiness doesn't follow money. Money will follow happiness. And I mean, our good friend Ryan Munson's a perfect example of that, who literally tuned in and dropped out from being a stockbroker in downtown to being the beer and beard wax music sort of following thing. And there's so many examples of that I can think of, where somebody did it. Because like a lot of people also think, hey, I get my own business, I do something, things are easy. Things are a piece of cake. My best example, and it still stands true today, but the waning weeks and months of COVID, John Bean and his son were working the kitchen at Harvey's. The Huck boys are still at Huck's. I don't know if you can tell, the multi-restaurant mogul Doug at Zachary's, he's there. Ryan and Catherine are there cooking pizzas. Like, people think, oh, I own this business, and they skip the 20 years where you work to the point where you can step away and get some breathing room. And I think it's important for people to hear those stories, that you don't just immediately stop working. So you add a little, because you realize, especially once you start talking about insurance and having the proper health insurance and stuff, and then you start talking about your own stuff, and then taxes, which is something I'll talk about later on for small business people throughout the podcast.
Why didn't you tell me that 5 years ago, Colin?
I'm just getting there. We're getting to know each other. So, all right. So this is the time of the podcast that I just made up where you get to plug away. How do they get in touch with you? What kind of work are you looking for? And how can they refer you or help you or your family?
Okay. Yep. So you can find me. You can call me at 435-1500. We own a website. We have not done anything with it yet. That will be one day, plusremodels.com. And yeah, just call me. We'll make sure to take care of you. And what was the other question?
How to get in touch with you. What
Any
kind of
other
referrals
plugs?
are you looking for? Like
So-
when
so
they come
really-
home from vacation and step on a squishy floor when they walk in, that's a call.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. That's a call. That's a call that we answer 24 hours a day. So if you're having any water issues, whether you're seeing water stains or dripping from the ceiling or water behind a fridge or a toilet or shower, give us a call and we will come right out. So.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man,
We still do bathroom remodels and kitchen remodels. I like to say we don't do concrete foundations or roofs, but we do everything in between. So, yeah.
Well, if business is good and you need a fancy shower, he's the man to call. So thank you for stepping in. He didn't know it was the last minute. I talked to him this morning. So I think if every podcast goes this well, we're going to be in good shape. So thanks a lot. We're going to try to do this at least every week. I'm Colin Krieger for Good for Business podcast. And I hope you all have a great day.